can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
Here are the facts. Humanity has always fought a war against disease. Each year, archaeologists find traces of disease in fossils throughout the world. Because the evolution of civilization and disease are interrelated, diseases adapt to cures and rarely disappear completely. For example, the bubonic plague is manageable, but flu strains still defy epidemiologists. Diseases continually evolve. New, stronger strains often appear in crowded, developing countries. Without the healthcare of wealthy nations, cities and poor states can become breeding grounds for deadly infections. In an increasingly globalized world, a new version of the flu is often only a plane flight away. It's us versus nature. Or is it? Our relationship with disease is not clear-cut. Humans often use disease as a weapon. This isn't a new trick. The first recorded biological attack may date back over 3,000 years into the past, when Hittites sent infected cattle to their enemies. The practice continued. Early European explorers allegedly used smallpox to eliminate Native Americans. The anthrax scare of the early 2000s is another example. Today, many people believe nations keep secret stockpiles of deadly germs. We assume these organisms are kept under lock and key. Here's where it gets crazy. Some conspiracy theorists believe the world's worst diseases are built by our governments. Consider the Spanish flu epidemic, which infected up to 1/3 of the world's population in 1918. The death toll was twice that of World War I. This disease differed from other flu strains. It killed people in their prime rather than the young and the elderly. Sources allege the strain was grown in a British or US laboratory. Some believe the government lost control of the virus in Fort Riley, Kansas. Others think it was spread intentionally. Why? If you're trying to target a specific group of people, disease is a poor weapon. Yet some think that's the point. Conspiracy theorists believe a shadowy group of world leaders periodically releases plagues to reduce the world's exploding population. While a group of supervillains is hard to swallow, overpopulation is a serious concern. Currently, over 6 billion people compete for the same resources. World leaders like Prince Philip and Henry Kissinger have pleaded for curbs to population growth. But warning against overpopulation is not the same thing as murdering billions with disease. Yet conspiracy theorists think the practice continues. The swine flu, for example, bears similarities to the Spanish flu. Some theorists think the HIV virus is a deadlier example. Researchers like Edward Hooper, author of The River, believe the virus to be at least partially man-made. It's possible that these diseases evolved naturally, but governments are not always moral. Consider the infamous Tuskegee experiments, where the US government pretended to treat hundreds of African American men with syphilis, but actually only studied the progression of their symptoms. Now consider overpopulation. Birth control could be a tool for population control, but it's controversial and illegal in some countries. In a world where the population is expected to hit 11 billion by 2050, we're running out of options. Has nature kept pace with humanity's progress, breeding stronger contagions? Or has someone helped evolution along, encouraging plagues to slow the population explosion? If so, it's something they don't want you to know.
It was Hippocrates, the father of medicine, who in the 4th century BC first gave the name cancer to the malady. Cancer begins as a departure from normal cell growth that is harmful and unceasing. Once cancerous cells appear, they soon develop into a clump of tissue that lives at the expense of the entire body.